Who are the Ultramarines? The Ultramarines, originally known as the Warborn, were the 13th Legion of the original 20 Space Marine Legions. This Loyalist Legion was later reorganized and divided into chapters according to the Codex Astartes. Their Primarch is Rabute Guilliman, whose leadership, not to mention his authorship of the Codex Astartes, were instrumental in humanity's survival following the Horus Heresy. Because their Primarch wrote the text that defines a Space Marines chapter, the Ultramarines followed this codex strictly. Their only deviation from the recent formation of the Tyrannic War veterans comprised entirely of the veterans of battles with Tyranids. The Ultramarines are possibly the most important imperial organization in the Eastern Fringe. In the days before being reunited with their Primarch, the Ultramarines were originally known as the 13th Legion. The Legion was created towards the end of the Unification Wars, developed from a gene seed that was noted to be absent of mutation and with a high adaptability. The original recruits were drawn from some of the sub-equatorial Maglev clans of Pan-Pakro, the war families of the Sargon Enclave, and the Metafric Hive oligarchy and the Anthropovacic tribes of the Caucasus Wastes. As varied in culture and origin as these groups were, they all had one factor in common: their violent and often bitter resistance to the later stages of unification, a resistance broken ultimately in each case not by negotiated surrender, but by their near annihilation. Within some situations, little remaining save interred refugees and orphaned populations left by the savage conflicts which had brought these peoples to heel. The Legion was created at such a late stage in the war that they have no record of recorded combat operations on Terra, instead being used for the first time for the liberation of the solar system. During the early Great Crusade, the Legion became known as the Warborn, referring to their disparate Terran origins that were all nonetheless forged through battle. During the Great Crusade, with the exception of the Lunar Wolves, no Legion conquered as many worlds or conquered worlds as fast or left conquered worlds in such good state as the Ultramarines. Guilliman restored the Legion's morale and prestige following difficulties on the Osiris Rebellion, and later took revenge on the Osarian Saesperids. At the Battle of the Eurydice Terminal, whenever Guilliman liberated a world, he would not move on until he had set up a self-sufficient defense system and left advisors behind to create industry, set up trade routes with the rest of the Imperium, and form a government whose first concern would always be the well-being of the people. The success of the Ultramarines may be thanks to their diverse but stable gene seed. In them was found a mixture of aggression and restraint, discipline and determination, which rendered them supremely suited for joint task force operations and cross-theater warfare. As Ultramar grew into a small, stellar empire in its own right, Guilliman created a supremely efficient military machine centered around Makarage that provided the Ultramarines with a steady flow of new recruits. The Ultramarines would soon become the largest of all the Space Marine legions, so large in fact that the organizational unit above the company was required. The Ultramarines were thus organized into chapters, numbering at least 25, just before the Battle of Calth. Rumors speculate that the size of the Ultramarines could only have been possible due to the fates of two unknown legions. At the time of the Horus Heresy, it is estimated that the Ultramarines Legion numbered around 250,000 Space Marines. Right before betraying the Emperor, Horus ordered the Ultramarines Legion to assemble for war in the Viridian system in the Segmentum Tempestus far to the galactic south, claiming that the system was under attack by an orc invasion force from the Gaslek Empire. Ultramar was close enough for an assault against Viridian, so Guilliman ordered his legion to assemble in the Calth system. As Guilliman and his fleets arrived at Calth, they knew something was wrong, because none of their astropaths could get messages through the warp, and the storms were interfering with the navigation of their ships. They were blocked from the rest of the Imperium, and it was at this moment that the traitor forces of the Wordbearers Legion attacked, rendering the Ultramarines unable to participate in much of the Battle of Terra. Simultaneously, the Wordbearers under Lorgar, as well as the World Eaters, attempted to cut off the rest of Ultramar from the Greater Imperium in the Shadow Crusade. The battle at Kauth, though ultimately a victory for Guilliman, was devastating for the Ultramarines. Nearly 120,000 of this Legion's Space Marines were lost and another 28,000 rendered combat incapable. This represented almost 60% of the Legion's pre-heresy strength of 250,000. After the formation of the Ruin Storm, Guilliman feared Terra lost and used the Ultramarines in the realm of Makarage to create a new contingency empire known as the Imperium Secundus. The Imperium Secundus faced a major test in the Battle of Sultha, where the Ultramarines and their fellow Astartes allies that had gathered fought off a force of Night Lords. Ultimately, after a number of disasters, clashes between Guilliman, Sanguinius, and Leon L. Johnson, and a vision by Sanguinius that the Emperor was alive, Imperium Secundus was abolished. The three Primarchs led their legions in an attempt to breach the Ruin Storm and reach Terra. Through an arduous journey, they eventually reached Davin, the nexus of the Ruin Storm, and engaged a vast demonic host. After the battle and the destruction of Davin, a way to Terra through the Ruin Storm was clear. However, in their way stood many enemy blockades, as Horus had foreseen this route. Sanguinius and the Blood Angels raced directly for Terra, as was their destiny, while Guilliman and Lionel Johnson led the Ultramarines and Dark Angels in diversionary attacks against Horus's blockade. After the death of the Ruin Storm, Guilliman gathered whatever forces he could and made haste for Terra. In his path lay a large defensive chain of hundreds of worlds manned by the Iron Warriors. In a series of bitter engagements, both sides took heavy losses, but the Loyalists were able to maintain a steady advance. Guilliman was able to set course for Terra, destroying Chaos reinforcements along the way, but arrived after Horus had already been defeated and the traitor legions scattered. Because of this, the Ultramarines were one of the few legions at full strength in the aftermath of the heresy. Thus, Guilliman and his Ultramarines bore much of the burden of holding the Imperium together against aliens and Chaos forces. During this time, the Ultramarines recruited heavily from Ultramar, and eventually counted for over half of the Loyalist Marines. Apart from leading his Ultramarines in countless battles across the galaxy, Guilliman also accepted an extraordinary appointment as Lord Commander of the Imperium. With the Emperor crippled and Lord Malcador dead, it fell to Guilliman to reorganize the Council of Terra into a ruling body capable of running the Imperium without their sovereign. Around a decade after the Horus heresy ended, the Imperium finally reached a point of stability. Following the Horus heresy, Guilliman set himself to create the Codex Astartes, which would define the tactics and organization of all Space Marines, from battlefield strategies to squad markings. Most important of these changes was the division of the legions into 1,000-strong chapters. One of the chapters would retain the heraldry of the original legion, but the others would be given a new name and a new symbol. In doing so, Guilliman hoped to divide the power of the Space Marines to ensure that a civil war on the scale of the heresy would never occur again. However, this did not come without dissension from Rogel Dorn, Vulcan, and Leman Russ, who opposed the splitting of their legions, while Guilliman was supported by Jagatai Khan and Korax. Neither side was willing to relent, and the controversy grew more intense, with Rogel Dorn calling Guilliman a coward for not participating in the siege of Terra, and Guilliman accusing Dorn of being a rebel for his refusal to follow the Codex. The situation threatened to bring the Imperium into yet another civil war. When the Imperial Fist Strike cruiser Terrible Angel was fired upon by the Imperial Navy, however, Dorn finally relented and agreed to split his legion. Hello everyone, this video was brought to you by Warhammer 40k Space Marine Part 2. Unleash deadly abilities and devastating weaponry to obliterate the relentless Tyranid swarms. Defend the Imperium in spectacular third-person action in solo or co-op modes when you pre-order the Gold Edition today. You'll have access to the base game, Macaridge's Chosen DLC, a complete season pass, and exclusive access to the full game 3 days before its release. Pre-order your copy today at Amazon.com. Just click the link in the description. I'm Travis J, and thank you for all your love and support. I'm out. Peace.